Alrighty guys, good morning everybody. Happy Monday, September 23rd. Hope everyone's having a fantastic morning so far. We got ourselves a big storm that's incoming for Florida that we've been monitoring for the last couple of days. It seems like the models have started to get into some of the agreement here. And it does seem like the possibility of landfall is going to be somewhere along the Panhandle, if not the Big Bend area. Regardless, there's going to be a lot of heavy impacts with this storm. We definitely need to start preparing for the storm here, as there definitely could be some pretty nasty impacts. But what's up, everybody? Good morning. Let's see who we got here today. We got Rocco. We have Mr. Wolf. Let's see here. We got ourselves Black Label, Lady B, Tabletop, Riverstone. Of course, everybody else who is here just not chatting. What's up, Dylan? Hope you're doing good. But anyways, my friends, well, we got ourselves a lot of things we do need to talk about here. So first of all, the storm has an overall 90% chance of development now in the next 7 days. It's going to happen at this point. Throughout the next 2 days, it has a 70% chance of turning into a tropical storm or a tropical depression. Within the next 2 days, that's also likely going to happen here. The storm is starting to look a little bit better. We take a look at the satellite imagery here. You can actually see we do have a little bit of circulation. If you look closely in here, you see there's a little bit of counterclockwise circulation going on, plus with all that main convection to the east and to the south of the storm. It obviously has a bit more organization it needs to do, but she's in the works. She is definitely in the works. And like I said, we're going to continue to watch the storm as it rolls its way here to the west. Overall kind of west-northwest, kind of squeezing between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba before getting turned by an air mass that's rolling to the east here. So basically, that's going to steer the storm out there towards Florida. So at this point in time, the models, like I said, nothing's still final, but we're getting better. The models are starting to agree. As a matter of fact, the latest runs are actually looking... well, the latest main hurricane spaghetti models are looking a little bit better, pretty grouped together, which is a good thing. But right now, it seems like area of landfall is going to be somewhere towards the Panhandle of Florida or the Big Bend area of Florida. There's a couple of models that show otherwise, which we'll get into the models here in a minute. But the main area of landfall does seem to be out there towards the Big Bend area. So we'll definitely, in the Big Bend and like the eastern Panhandle overall. Let's see. What's up, Dylan? Good morning. Tabletop, I wouldn't be worried, man. Like I said, this is mostly going to be a big problem for Florida. I mean, it could be, like I said, at this point in time, it's still several days away. By the time it even gets to, the area there's a chance you could hardly be affected at all. But there's no reason to worry about this, Tabletop. Since you're in North Carolina, this is mostly going to be a Florida concern at first. I mean, what it does after, we still need to learn. But for right now, the main thing we need to pay attention to is Florida. Everybody in Florida, along the the Panhandles coast, the Big Bend coast here, and even western coast of Florida should heavily monitor the storm here because it really does seem like that those areas are going to be potentially heavily impacted by the storm. So let's hop into models. Let's waste no time here. We're going to go ahead and get on into it. So the latest model runs here are definitely a little interesting. We got the 0 Zulu. So this was from basically early this morning, this model run. So you can see the system down there. We also have another little system south of Mexico here, but that's not the main thing right now. The main one we're paying attention to is this guy here. So we work our way down in time, and over the next couple of days, the storm, gradually picks up a little bit of strength. As we approach, like I said, the Yucatan Peninsula between western Cuba and the Yucatan, that's where the storm is going to start to pick up some heavy intensification. We're likely going to see a hurricane develop around that time, potentially. And also, we'll continue to monitor as it works its way to the north. Now, as you're going to see here, the models have become pretty darn aggressive regarding the system here. The latest, like I said, this is a 0 Zulu GFS, but you can see here that the GFS has it going right there towards the Big Bend of Florida there, which also could easily brush up some of the areas near Tampa in terms of getting some of those strong bands and heavy winds and coastal impacts as well. But it seems like I mentioned, it seems like the landfall portion is going to be somewhere here as of now. Yes, there is still room for some changes, of course. We are still a good 3 days away or so from the system here, so there is still some time it could shift a little bit. They can shift last minute, and I want you to know that. That's why I really want a lot of you guys along, Florida's just western coast to mostly be monitoring this because the way that things can go sometimes is they can shift either way last minute, and obviously I want everybody to be prepared along the western coast of Florida. Just prepare for the worst, hope for the best here. But yeah, the 0 Zulu GFS really shows that storm being quite strong, pressure down into the lower 940s overall. Which that would put the storm definitely in major hurricane status. That would be right around Category 4, if not near Cat 5, strength as we approach there. This is probably going to be more towards Cat 4 according to this model here. Now, the 06 Zulu, which is the latest model run from this morning, actually shows the storm even a little bit more stronger. Pressure getting down into, or is it a little bit strong? Hold on, let me double check. Was that 9? Okay, yeah, it's actually, let's see. It's roughly around the same. Okay. So it does have that storm maybe moving a little bit more east. You can see the latest GFS, instead of hitting, the western Big Bend and, basically the central panhandle, it actually moves it more towards the east. Just a little bit, right there towards the middle of the Big Bend here regarding landfall. Central low down in the 940s, lower 940s there, which, like I mentioned, would easily be a very, very strong storm. Now, looking at the winds here, I mean, we're going to have some impacts, regarding the coasts on both the west and the eastern side of Florida, more than likely. Also along like Georgia's coast, potentially could be impacted as well. You can see those red markers here. That's basically our little wind barbs pointing towards the coast here, which could lead to some swelling, even along portions of Florida's eastern coast. This is a very big storm. This is not a small hurricane. This is going to be a big hurricane overall. And if we take a look at the infrared satellite, it really goes to perspective to show you just how big this storm is. I mean, this thing is nearly the entire size of Florida. This is a very big storm. So that's going to be the thing. So those effects are going to be felt for quite a long distance here. Quite a broad distance is something that is going to be a bit of a concern because it's going to be impactful for not just a small group of people, but also for a larger group of people. That's why I really want, if you live in Florida, to really monitor this here because, like I mentioned, this thing could be a pretty nasty one. This really does have the potential to be a pretty nasty storm. So then we hop over to CMC. This is another model here. CMC, this is the Canadian model. This one shows it, obviously, more of a better scenario, kind of shows the pressure down into the lower 970s, obviously a lot fairly weaker compared to the GFS. But as we dive into the main hurricane models like HMON, HWRF, you're going to see a big thing, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But yeah, CMC suggests also a landfall out there towards the Big Bend region here overall. So that does seem like what the latest models are suggesting is that the storm's going to be kind of impacting the Big Bend region here. It seems like the models have been trending slightly east. Majority of runs. I've noticed that for the last day or so is that, I don't know if you guys remember, but previously the storm was expected to make landfall towards Mississippi, Alabama. It's severely changed to the east, and now we're expecting landfall to be somewhere towards the Panhandle, the Big Bend region of Florida. Now, like I mentioned, there is still time for this track to change. There's a lot of complicated dynamics going into this system here. We have an air mass over here across the the Midwest and the western southeastern U.S. Which is going to impact and determine on where the storm ultimately goes. So this storm is probably going to be one of the ones that loves the change last minute. That's what I'm a little concerned about. That's what I'm a little bit worried about, is this thing deciding, oh, I'm going to go here instead. So that's a little bit concerning overall, and it needs to be heavily monitored here. Is Ocala in a rain or wind threat? Ocala definitely could be impacted by both rain and winds. I definitely do think so. But if you live in Ocala, of course, I do want you to prepare for that storm as well. So that's the CMC. Now the icon, everybody loves icon here. This is the 06 Zulu. Icon shows it once again out there towards the Big Bend area of Florida. The models have kind of pinpointed this little area here in the cove of the Big Bend being the area of landfall, which would still cause some heavy impacts, just along Florida's western coast. And of course, maybe even cause some impacts along the eastern coast here as, like I mentioned, these storms here, they rotate counterclockwise. So those winds are going to start battering the coast towards like Georgia and like the eastern coast of Florida, which could cause some swelling and some issues along those areas as well. So it's not just going to be, along Florida's west coast. There could also definitely be some impacts along Florida's east coast where it is open as well. And that, that winds start to batter against the coast, which could cause some swelling, maybe some surges, depending on how strong the storm is and ultimately where it goes. But yeah, this model does suggest that pressure down into the lower 960s, which is kind of not as crazy as GFS, but it definitely does still show a pretty strong storm before kind of getting thrown up through Georgia. Obviously Georgia, I want you guys to monitor the storm as well too. Before kind of fading out in Georgia, causing a bunch of rain potentially for like the Tennessee Valley at some point. It seems quite possible overall. So we'll definitely need to really watch this out. Not just for Florida. Obviously, Florida is probably going to take the biggest brunt here, the biggest force. Following Georgia, and then like I said, Tennessee could get a lot of the remains of the rainfall. Like I said, that's just an idea with the models here. It seems like the models have been starting to get a little bit better with agreement. The GFS, though, shows it a little bit more to the east, as you can tell, impacting still Georgia, maybe into the western Carolinas overall. So, we're going to have to look out there for that. Anyway, so that's the GFS. So we went over that. Euro, ECMWF, this model's been kind of underdoing things this whole year. But regardless, it shows that landfall towards the Panhandle near the Big Bend area here, which is what the majority of the models do suggest right now. But this model has it, in the 980s, which, like I said, Euro hasn't been doing very well this year with tropical cyclones. It's been severely underestimating them for the last several tropical cyclones we've monitored. And as we're getting ready to work our way into the main hurricane models, you're going to see that there's obviously going to be a big difference than what the Euro does suggest. Okay, so let's hop on into HWRF. Now, this is one of the main hurricane models, and unfortunately, this is actually the new run here. We're going to hop to the 0 Zulu run because that one's not done yet. The HWRF really has this thing kicking off. And as we kind of squeeze between the eastern Yucatan and the western side of Cuba, this thing could be a very strong hurricane already at that point. Pressure down into the kind of mid-950s, rapidly intensifying. Look at this. Pressure getting down into the 920s. And it continues to be a pressure in the 920s. Now, like I mentioned, we don't know this yet, but this model is suggesting that this storm could be Category 4 or higher. With a pressure that low, that is some serious storm activity there. Now, HWRF continues to show that storm, remaining the pressure in the 920s, lower 920s throughout a good day or so before it makes landfall there towards the Big Bend, as the majority of the models do suggest. So, like I mentioned, this could certainly be a really bad storm for Florida. And that's why I really want you guys to be watching this thing very, very closely. This is definitely a storm that you do not want to brush off. This thing really has potential to be a monster. That's what I'm worried about. And like I said, just not only in strength, I mean, this thing is, potentially going to be a very, very strong storm, but also its size. I mean, it's going to be potentially a really big storm. I mean, look how big it is. I mean, the thing is literally about the size of Florida, plus some of the bands go up in towards, like Georgia and Alabama potentially, and, some of like South Carolina, overall. That is a really big storm. And that's what really kind of worries me a bit, is just, how massive this storm is. I mean, look at this thing. It's a beast. It is an absolute beast. And that's, like I said, I'm a little bit concerned for Florida's coast, and that's why I want you guys to start preparing today. If you can, out there towards the Panhandle, even the western sides of Florida, I would start to prepare for the worst. Obviously hope for the best, but like I mentioned, the models are getting quite a bit aggressive here overall. Let's see here. Caden says, good morning. Thank you so much, man, for the 25 months Tropical Storm Team. Appreciate it, man. Let's see. Will I keep up posted? I don't watch TV. Yeah, I will. I'll be live here continuously throughout the storm here. We'll be doing a lot of updates here overall, with the system here. It's going to need it. And like I said, this is a bit concerning to see, of course. I mean, like I said, just the sheer size and the potential strength of the thing. Yeah, it's a little bit concerning overall. Now, we work our way down there towards the landfall point, and as we approach landfall, there could be a little bit more drier air starting to build into the southwestern quadrant, but it doesn't look like that dry air reaches the storm in time, before landfall to really weaken it. So it does kind of seem like, as of now, the storm's going to kind of hit full force between some of these models here. So that's HWRF, like I mentioned, kind of showing that there overall. What's the wind speeds? This model suggests these winds getting up to about 120 knots. That would be like 140 miles an hour, roughly. That's sustained. Remember, gusts are going to be higher. And you can really see that those coasts get battered. I mean, even like Tampa Bay here, even if it does not have a direct impact for like Tampa Bay, there's still going to be some really, really strong swelling potentially out there too. That's what it's a little bit, just a little bit concerning here. And then, of course, like we said, we're going to continue to work our way up into Georgia. Obviously, I want Georgia to monitor this too. This model is crazy, showing the pressure still in the 940s as we're in central Georgia. The storm kind of holding on strong before then rapidly weakening. Is still in the 970s according to this model. Remember, this is one model, so take this with a grain of salt, but still goes up there towards like Tennessee. Could bring a lot of rain for those regions there. So obviously Florida, you need to watch this here very, very closely. Georgia, you as well, because like I said, this thing's going to lead its way up more than likely into Georgia, causing some impacts as well. Could certainly be some pretty windy conditions out in some of those regions there, of course, and a good amount of rainfall, I'd say, could be an issue too. But yeah, overall, the HWRF does have this thing pretty strong. So now we're going to move into the HMON. This is another one of those hurricane models, also suggesting the thing being likely a hurricane as we kind of squeeze between the eastern Yucatan Peninsula and western Cuba. We continue to work our way up here into the 26, which is right here. The main impacts are going to be there for like Thursday, from what it looks like. So as we approach our way into Thursday, this model does suggest that pressure getting down into the 930s, 920s potentially as well. You can see this model does show upper 920s at one point. We continue working our way down in time, and this one actually has it maybe hitting a little bit more east, kind of more towards the central and eastern Big Bend region. This would still cause some impacts for Tampa Bay. I want to remind you guys of that. Like I said, even if it's not a direct impact for Tampa Bay, these models are suggesting, a good amount of potentially tropical storm, force winds, maybe gusting near hurricane force, according to some of the models, which could definitely be a problem for, my folks out there towards the Tampa Bay. That's why I really want y'all, along the western coast of Florida, just to really monitor. And I would, like I said, I would start preparing this as soon as you can. Like I mentioned, this storm does have the potential to kind of, still kind of move around a little bit. I think that is a possibility, but I do want you guys to start preparing for the storm here today. Just make sure you have, non-perishable foods. Matter of fact, I actually made a little list for you guys. I want to to go ahead and show you guys. These are some of the important items that you do want to keep with you if you are in the region. You want to make sure you have food and water, flashlight with extra batteries. Make sure that you have extra batteries available. Important documents, put them in your safe spot. Portable phone chargers, just to keep your phones, obviously charged up and stuff like that. Make sure you put gas in your cars and generators, and of course make sure you have a first aid kit if there's any injuries. Obviously you can treat that there overall. So that is what I wanted to really kind of mention with you guys. But we'll hopping back over here to the models here. Overall, what category do I believe it might be when it makes landfall? So that's still not 100% known, but I do think that this thing has potential of being Cat 3, maybe Cat 4. We'll have to see. Like I said, that's still not certain, but the way that the models have been trending, I would definitely say at least probably Category 3 or so. If we take a look here at the here, let's bring y'all over here to 90. So the storm right now is called 97L. If you look at the intensity guidance between the models here, you can see a lot of the heavy part of the models show the thing. Majority of them, about half of them show it. Getting into like Category 3 realm, a couple peeking up towards Cat 4. So that is certainly a possibility. And here's the latest spaghetti models. You can kind of see how they're agreeing on the Panhandle being the area of landfall. And actually, like I said, the models have been doing pretty good, keeping themselves pretty close, pretty narrow to one another. It seems like there is a fair amount of agreement as of now between those models. And of course, we do have the one outcast has it going right towards the Tampa Bay, which that is the HM&I model there. But the majority of the models do have it going right there towards the Panhandle here overall. Liddy says, thank you for what you do. It's appreciated. No problem. I'm glad to help you guys out. Like I said, we're here. I'm concerned for your all safety. I want to make sure you guys are alerted, make sure you guys are weather aware, because, like I mentioned, this thing does have potential to be quite a gnarly storm. And that's what the models have been trending for a while now. So it seems like those models are starting to, kind of really show themselves. What this storm actually could end up being. So now moving into the HAFSA model, once again, still showing potential hurricane as we roll between the Yucatan and the Yucatan Peninsula and western Cuba. This model also suggests us getting down into the 920 millibar range upon landfall. That, like I said, would easily be major hurricane status. That's going to be near like Category 4 or higher status there. According to some of those main hurricane models there. You can see, a lot of those bands still going up there towards, like central Florida, western Florida, showing that landfall out there towards the Big Bend region. Once again, going straight up into Georgia. I want Georgia to watch this too. It's not just going to be a thing for Florida. It's also going to be an impactful storm for Georgia, more than likely too. Could bring a lot of rain for, the Carolinas potentially as well, maybe like Tennessee. Just ultimately depends on where it ends up. But, like I certainly said, Florida, Georgia certainly need to watch this storm very, very closely, both of you guys. So once again, if you're along the Panhandle coast as well as the western coast, really just of Florida, make sure you're prepared. Make sure you have food, water, first aid kit, like I said, all that stuff I mentioned a minute ago. Make sure you have all that stuff ready. We have a couple days to prepare for this. Like I said, the landfall is going to be somewhere around the 26th. Somewhere probably afternoon, evening of the 26th is what models are suggesting. So that is the timing as of now is going to be right around Thursday, from what it looks like as of now. What's up, Devis? Hope you're doing good. Let's see, Jacksonville impacts. So Jacksonville, obviously Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Beach area, could certainly feel some swelling on the storm here. Like I mentioned, the thing about these systems here is, like I said, they rotate counterclockwise. You can barely see it on the map here, but there's a little bit of strong winds, potentially like tropical storm force winds, impacting, the Jacksonville Beach area, roughly, which could certainly bring some impacts on itself. It's not just going to be limited to the western coast, but there obviously could be some impacts along the eastern coast here as well. Let's actually bring up the HAF or HWRF parent model, and you can actually see how some of those strong winds could be on the eastern side of the coast here as well. Obviously, the western coast is probably going to feel, or is going to feel, the worst of the storm, but whenever it comes to it, the eastern coast cannot be completely ruled out from impacts as well. There's likely going to be some swelling, some strong winds, and stuff like that too. Some of those bands will likely also go into the eastern side of Florida too. I mean, like I mentioned, just the sheer size of this storm is kind of concerning. I mean, look how big the storm is. That thing is like literally the size of Florida. That is like a massive, massive storm. Due to a lot of moisture that's available in the atmosphere here, that's allowing this storm to get big. So it's not going to be a small hurricane like Andrew. No, this is going to be a big storm overall. So that's what's also concerning me a bit too. Is not only the potential strength of it, but the sheer size of the storm too could be a big issue. What's up, weather? Hope you're doing good, man. Is this a heavy populated area? The Big Bend region, I don't think has too many people, which is good. Well, you obviously got areas like Tallahassee, which could be impacted pretty heavily. Tallahassee's out there. Once again, the majority of the models have the storm impacting along here, right around, between like Apalachicola and like Cedar Key. Between those two areas is kind of where the models are suggesting a landfall as of now. But it's not heavily populated, but there absolutely is some populated areas included. Some places. Once again, Tallahassee, I think, is like the biggest one that's kind of near the Big Bend area. Tallahassee's more towards like the eastern Panhandle, but kind of the western side of the Big Bend. Anyways, but yeah, so there is people here. You got like Perry, of course. You got like some of those interior portions like Lake City, Gainesville. Some of those regions could be definitely heavily impacted by the storm here overall. Atlanta has to prepare for the storm. What do I see? So I would definitely prepare if you are in Georgia too. There is likely going to be some heavy impacts with this storm as we roll our way into Georgia as well. If we take a look here, we're going to hop over back to the HWRF. We're going to zoom into this here. This is a new run, by the way. This is the previous run we got. So the previous run, I mean, look at that. That is just gnarly. But there will certainly likely be some impacts for Georgia as well. You can see the storm still being fairly strong, still some really strong winds likely included, a lot of rain and stuff like that. Will likely occur for Georgia as well. Even Alabama, like eastern Alabama, should monitor this as well. Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, Western Carolinas, Tennessee could definitely have some impacts regarding the storm. But, by far, obviously, Florida is going to take the main impacts, and, potentially Georgia as well there overall. But yeah, for Atlanta, by the time we get to Atlanta, the storm will be likely much weaker, due to going over land and, losing a lot of its steam. But it still could be a strong storm by the time we approach those regions. It still certainly could be windy and all kinds of stuff like that as we approach out there. But yeah, so absolutely, just Georgia, pay attention to it. Florida, definitely pay attention to it. I do think that there could be some impacts for the Georgia areas as well. But, that's kind of where we remain here. HAFSB model, now this is the most aggressive out of all of them. I don't know if y'all see this, but that pressure gets down to 904. According to the HAFSB. That shows a Category 5. Like I mentioned, we don't know if it's going to be up that strong yet, but the models are suggesting this thing being, easily Cat 3 or above. There's a good handful of the models that actually support this thing being near Category 4 upon landfall. That's still not certain, by the way, so keep that in mind. But, this model is the most aggressive here, and showing those winds sustained at 140 knots. That would put it, I believe, right at the Category 5 mark overall. So this is certainly the most aggressive model, and this one also has it going up there towards, the Panhandle near the Big Bend area, just slightly west of the Big Bend. But that pressure gets down into the right around 917, according to this model at landfall. That is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Visiting Panama City. I've never been in a hurricane. Gotcha. Yeah, so, like I mentioned, just, Panama City area should also monitor the storm too. The landfall, as of now, is kind of pinpointed to be a little bit, actually kind of towards the area, maybe slightly east of Panama City. But know that can still change, okay? So know that still is a possibility. We are still having, we are still having a couple of days before the main event here, and of course there is still some time for the models to change in both strength and track here. So it's nothing's final yet, but it seems like the models are starting to agree that the storm will likely impact the Big Bend of Florida and the Panhandle. That seems to be where the impact and where the landfall is going to take place. Now, the impacts are going to be really widely spread throughout Florida, regardless of where you're at, even if you're not directly in the impacts or the landfall zone. Since the storm is it's such a big storm, there will likely be some impacts throughout a lot of Florida here. So that's what's just a little bit concerning to me. Now, the latest GFS, like I mentioned, shows the pressure getting down into the 940s, showing that landfall a little bit more east here, actually putting Tampa Bay potentially at risk here for some heavy activity. This is right around the 26th, like we mentioned. This is when we are expecting the storm to be making landfall and stuff like that. What's up, Stuart? Hope you're doing good. Let's see. Is it possible it could go more east? It is possible, yes. It is certainly a possibility that models can continue trending eastward. It seems like the models have been doing an easterly trend for a little while now. It really does seem like the models have been trending more and more east. Is it possible that it could continue that? Yeah, it is possible. But it's also possible that it could pull a little bit more west as well. Like I said, this storm's kind of going to be. We're starting to dial in right now. We're starting to kind of dial in on where the storm's going to end up. And like I said, Panhandle, Big Bend area, more than likely is going to be the point of landfall. But there is absolutely still a little bit of time for the storm to maybe shift a little bit to the east or a little bit to the west. Let's see. Do I think South Carolina? So South Carolina, certainly could feel some of the effects from the storm. But by the time we get there, the storm is likely going to be much weaker as we do, kind of dig our way inland here overall. And it'll start to lose a lot of its steam and stuff like that overall. What category is it looking like? For right now, it looks like at least, like I said, for now it looks like at least Category 3. Seems a good likelihood, if not stronger. Will Miami area get impacted? Not as much, but there certainly could be some impacts towards the Keys and towards Miami, of course. Grab a sound, you can kind of see some of those winds could definitely be pretty strong. Like 30 knots, which would be like slightly short of tropical storm force. I mean, yeah, like I said, a lot of Florida is going to be feeling this effect. Regardless of where you're really at, the most of the heaviest effects are going to be, as of now, from what we believe, somewhere in these areas here. Obviously, like I said, I want Tampa Bay to watch this one too, because there is a shot that some of those really strong winds could impact Tampa Bay area, and could lead to some swelling, could lead to some heavy concerns with the storm here. But as of now, models, like I mentioned, do show this thing making landfall there towards the Big Bend. Bottled water, canned foods, full tank of gas, clean clothes, pet food, have different safety plans ahead of time. Absolutely. And like I mentioned, I did make a little list for you guys. I do want you guys to have your food and water ready. A flashlight with extra batteries. Make sure you have that. I didn't put a radio on this, but if you have a weather radio, it would be good to have as well. Important documents, insurance papers, all kinds of, important documents, portable phone chargers. Make sure you have those charged and ready to go. Of course, you make sure you put gas in your car and your generators. That way you have fuel. And of course, we do have, like I said, first aid kit as well. You want to make sure that you have that. So, absolutely. St. Petersburg at risk? Yes. Yeah, St. Pete should definitely monitor this. There very well could be some impacts along St. Pete. Just Tampa Bay and in general should heavily monitor this here. Let's go ahead and bring up our HWRF here on this page. Invest, let's see here. Yeah, there she is. Okay, so yeah, right now, once again, the NHC has this thing at a 90% chance overall formation. It's going to happen. The models definitely do talk about it. But, throughout the next 2 days. Look at that. They actually updated it. 7 o'clock update or 8 o'clock update. They brought that up to an 80% chance likelihood of forming in the next 2 days now. So that is, Yep. So that's likely going to develop in the next 2 days or so. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the majority of the models have this thing reaching hurricane strength as we approach the eastern Yucatan Peninsula and western Cuba. Let's see. What time do I think this will turn into a tropical storm? So that could happen within the next 2 days. Is what that's kind of what the overall formation is. We're likely going to get tropical storm status. I'd say probably in a day or two. I mean, we're getting closer. I mean, the storm right now. Look, I can go ahead and show you guys where it's at right now. This is the storm right now. Satellite imagery. So, right now you can see that little circulation there. There's Cuba. Here's the Yucatan Peninsula. So you can look, there's a little bit of rotation going on in there. A lot of convection to the south side right now. There's a lot of convection to the south and a bit to the east as well. We need a lot of that storm activity to be centralized around that low. And then once that occurs, then that's whenever big stuff will start to happen. As we track our way to the northwest here, squeeze in between, Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. And then, of course, that frontal air mass coming through. We got that air mass rolling through. There's actually part of it right there. That'll kind of squeeze it and kind of push it more to the east here overall. But, yeah, no, they did update the probability here to a 90% chance overall formation. And throughout the next 2 days, we have an 80% chance here as well. So, the odds are quite high at this point. Now, the impacts on Florida, like whenever we can expect those outer bands, according to the model, it shows maybe for the 25th, some of those bands could start to impact portions of Florida. But it's not really, this is the new run, by the way. But, yeah, I mean, you can see, obviously, some of those bands really going up into western Florida there, too, even central Florida. And landfall is going to be somewhere around the 26th, is what the models are suggesting. It's not just this model. A lot of the models do suggest the storm making landfall on the 26th, sometime between the late morning and the evening. Let's see here. What's the wind shear forecast? Wind shear is not expected to be that crazy for the storm here. That's partially why the storm is expected to undergo rapid development. Is due to lack of wind shear and tons of moisture and the heat, the warmth from the waters down below. Yeah, there's really not going to be any limiting impacts. As we approach the landfall point, there could be a little bit of dry air. You can actually see on the model here. There could be a little bit of dry air trying to get into it. As we make landfall, that's a part of that air mass we were talking about. That's going to bring down some drier air, potentially getting sucked into the core there. But at that point, it's already making landfall, which will be a little bit too late. Before it really wouldn't weaken. From what models are saying now, it really wouldn't weaken by the time we get there. Let's see. A tropical storm could form as early as this afternoon. Is that what the Hurricane Center said? I think they said over the next day or two, or next 2 days or so. I should. Let's see what their direct quote is. Let's see. Ooh. Okay, watches and warnings will likely be required this morning, is what they said. That's probably for some of the regions near Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. Let's see. What do they really? Yeah, Gulf Coast should also closely monitor this. Did they even really say? Let's see. Regardless of development, tropical depression or storms likely within the next day or so. Okay, so within the next day or so, that could be today. We'll see. Just depends on what it does. Let's see here. Yeah, but make sure, like I said, you guys start preparing for this if you can now. Out there towards the panhandle here of Florida, and like I said, even just like portions of the western coast of Florida. Like I mentioned, there could certainly be some impacts towards like the Tampa Bay area as well. You can see some of those heavy bands rolling through. The core remaining just to the west, but that's as of models now. And you can actually see here that the landfall point is going to be somewhere towards the Big Bend here. And that's going to be right around, like I said, this model suggests like 11 a.m. or so, but there's also some models that show like evening too. So it would be sometime in like probably the late morning, afternoon, and evening is on the 26th is probably going to be the timing for that, but it could change. Let's see. What's controlling the steering of the hurricane? So there's actually, like I said, a frontal system that's going to be rolling through, allowing it to steer a bit to the east here. It kind of stalls. There's actually an area of low pressure that is over the Midwest, which we will pull up the models now and show you guys. Let's see here. Southeast, and we'll bring this up here. So there's actually, you can kind of see it there, so it's hard to make out, but the system goes up, and there's a low that develops, and it kind of shifts its direction, kind of pulling it up. But yeah, there is going to be an air mass out there. It's kind of slightly pushing to the east here, which is going to kind of knock the storm a little bit eastward. Let's see. Is the new model much different from the last one? This is the newest. Oh, I think you're talking about HWRF. Let's see here. So it's still rendering. It's not done yet, but wow. Still showing a powerhouse of a storm. Also still showing the Tampa Bay. They're getting, definitely some heavy impacts. Like sustained in over 50 knots. That would be like upper tropical storm force, roughly. But yeah, no, there certainly is still some pretty concerning things about the latest model here. The pressure down in the 920s. Yeah, it shows right around 8 a.m. on the 26th here is at this point in time. And right around the morning is kind of when it really starts to show those conditions along the coast rapidly deteriorating. So, yeah, no, we'll definitely be watching that. Let's hop over to HMON again. This is the 06 Zulu run. This one shows pressure down in the 930s at landfall there. Once again, showing the Tampa Bay and potentially heavily impacted. Like I said, the models right now show the storm, mostly heading in towards this region. Like I said, the Panhandle and the Big Bend, that's kind of where, somewhere in here is probably where the landfall is going to take place. And, as mentioned, there is still some time for a little bit of movement in terms of where it goes. It certainly is a possibility that it could trend a little bit more east again, or it could trend a little bit west. That still is possible, but at this point in time, it does seem like models are starting to come to a pretty good understanding of what we might actually be in store for. In which, the 26th, that's still, 3 days away? Typically, yeah, within within 3 days we get a general understanding, and right now the general understanding is that it's going to be there towards the Big Bend area. It's hard to tell tabletop. At that point in time, that's still a little early, honestly. Even up to the point of Florida, regarding the timing is still unknown, yet alone going way up towards the north, up in North Carolina. I don't think you should panic over it up there in North Carolina. Let's see here. Tampa Bay is not a good place for it. No, it's really not. Definitely not. Let's see. Storm surge. If this run comes true, it will be nuts. Yeah, absolutely. Easily, I'd say over 10 foot of storm surge. Easily. It would be very nasty, storm surge. Coastal impacts would be terrible. Heavy surges, very strong winds. Those winds really can help determine on how big those waves ultimately get, because the winds, it really moves around that water. And, once you got the coast being battered by those strong winds, at that point, that's when a lot of that ocean water starts rushing inland towards the coastlines. And then, like I mentioned, some of the models do also show some pretty nasty coastal impacts towards, like, even Georgia's coast and, the eastern coast, portion of the eastern coast of Florida. And then even, South Carolina, maybe a little bit, near, Hilton Head Island could get a little bit of impacts before kind of pulling up north and probably getting sucked up towards the Tennessee Valley at some point. But there's definitely still a couple days for some things to change. And I want you guys to keep that in mind, okay? Remember Debbie, my power was off. Debbie was a very rainy storm. This is not a storm really to compare to Debbie. This one's likely going to be stronger than Debbie. This is likely going to be a worse storm than Debbie. Yeah, no, Debbie was Cat 1 at landfall, and it had a lot of rain with it. Here, I'm in Lakeland, Florida, which is just slightly east of Tampa. And we got some pretty good rain. I think my weather station out there recorded like 6 inches of rain total from that event. So it certainly was a wet storm. We can look at the totals here, maybe, but I wouldn't trust them very much. Does this here? Hold on. Let's do this here. We can look at totals, but just know that they're likely not going to hold up. Okay. Take them with a grain of salt. Let's do total accumulated precipitation. Okay, so models suggest towards the landfall. You can see the color table on the right-hand side here, showing the Big Bend where the core goes. That's right around 6-7 inches. I mean, locally higher, of course, but like I said, take those lightly right now because that's likely gonna change a bit. But some strong rain could also, or heavy rain could also go up there towards Georgia, the Carolinas, maybe Tennessee as well. Maybe portions of eastern Alabama. Hi, New Year. Welcome. Hope you're doing good, my friend. Will Miami get it terrible, or is it more northern? It's going to be mostly on this side of Florida, so Miami's down here. Now, you're not going to be completely unaffected. You will likely feel some strong winds out of the storm here. More than likely, you can see those strong winds battering. Florida's also eastern coast too. It's not just going to be a West Coast phenomenon, but there is a chance for like tropical storm conditions out there towards Miami. Certainly is a possibility. Some of the models do suggest that. These little wind barbs out there, maybe around 35, 40 knots or so, which would put us in like lower tropical storm force. But the worst of it's going to be far away from those regions. Now, also the Keys should watch it as well. It definitely looks like those Keys, the Keys could definitely experience some strong winds too. What is it? The dry Tortugas out there? Is that what it's? Yeah, the dry Tortugas definitely could feel some heavy impacts. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little dot right there. That's the dry Tortugas, showing like 40 knot wind barb there. That would be tropical storm force winds out there, and definitely some rough seas. So, yeah, towards like the dry Tortugas, we will likely need some tropical storm warnings at some point if this trend continues. And I mean, shoot, a lot of Florida will probably be under tropical storm warnings. I would certainly imagine that even eastern portions would. I mean, if this plays out, like I said, the eastern coast here would still be in that 35, 40 knot wind barb, that would still put us in like tropical storm force. So tropical storm warnings will probably be needed for a lot of the peninsula. I would certainly imagine that a lot of Florida would be needing those. I hate hurricanes. I'm from here, thinking about flying out to the Midwest for a quick vacation. Get out! Hurry up! Get out here before the storm comes. Nah, I hear you. They can be quite a nuisance. Absolutely, they can be annoying, and they definitely can be, and they can be very impactful. And like I said, just to my folks in Florida, like I said, we need to really watch out for this here. This is going to be this has a potential to be a big one. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned tornado. More scared of the tornadoes. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because there will probably be a tornado threat with this as well. So the thing with tropical and non-tropical low pressure systems is that on the eastern side of the storm, we have strong winds across the atmosphere. We have what we call a veering wind shear pattern, which typically changes the wind directions pretty aggressively with altitude, which can indeed allow for some tornadic activity. That's where a lot of your instability is too. It's the eastern side of the storms that have the tornado threat. So that would put a lot of Florida actually in the potential for tornadoes too. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, is tornado probability too. So the eastern, or a lot of Florida could be in the tornado threat too as well. And that could start honestly as early as Wednesday, that tornado threat, because you can see those winds starting to approach probably for like the afternoon, evening of Wednesday. So between Wednesday and Thursday, there will probably be a pretty strong tornado threat as well with that. Let's see here. We're gonna hop back over to the HWRF. Can I look at the SPC outlooks on excessive rainfall? The WPC outlooks, sure. Actually, let's hop over here. But yeah, no, let's look at the WPC outlooks. SPC is Storm Prediction Center. That's for severe weather. But WPC, let's see here. Here we go. As of now, day 2, there's nothing. Day 3, so day 3, this is for Wednesday. As of now for Wednesday, you can see that we have a marginal risk for flooding along southern Florida, western Florida. It actually becomes a pretty decent flooding threat for Wednesday. I don't think this is related to the storm, but there is a good shot for some heavy precip and some flooding out here towards Alabama and Tennessee, northern Georgia there. But day 4, that's the big day. Yeah, day 4, you can see that we have a big old slight risk, a level 2 out of 4 threat for flooding, which puts areas as far south as like the Key West area, or the Keys in general, Miami, Tampa, Cape Coral, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, a lot of western and central Florida included in that flooding threat there. Then, of course, we have the day 5 outlook, which would be for Friday. Friday would put areas up towards like Georgia, the western Carolinas in a threat for flooding. Absolutely. So yeah, no. As of now, the flooding threat is pretty concerning. There for Thursday. Like I said, this is Thursday's outlook, the day of landfall, which would really put a lot of Florida in flooding concerns. Like I mentioned, guys, the new update from the Hurricane Center came out. They give it an overall 90% chance of development at this point, which at this point it's almost certain. And throughout the next 2 days, we have an 80% chance. So this storm is likely going to be a tropical storm or a depression as early as this evening. If not this evening, then more than likely, I'd say tomorrow would be when we do get that system finally developing. So it'll be sometime either this evening or tomorrow. And like I said, the Hurricane Center, they mentioned that warnings are going to be likely needed here. Tropical depression is likely to form within the next day or so. Or storm, I should say. Now, also, my folks up there towards the Yucatan, the eastern Yucatan, towards like Cancun and, areas in western Cuba should watch it, because the storm here is going to kind of squeeze in between the eastern Yucatan and western Cuba. If we take a look at the model here, which is the HWRF here, you can see, the model just kind of has the storm squeezing right between the two. Right between those two. Worried about my mom in Clearwater. I'm in Wisconsin. Yeah, I got you. So Clearwater needs to watch it. Tampa Bay area needs to watch it because, there will certainly likely be some strong bands and stuff. The core of the storm, the eye, will likely remain west of Tampa. We're going to have to continue watching for, maybe some westerly or easterly trends. So there is still a possibility the track can change a little bit by the time we get to the point. But from where we're at now, it looks like, Tampa could definitely get some of the stronger bands for sure. And let me pull up those winds here. Let's do 10-meter winds, which is like lower level winds here. Now these aren't wind gusts, but a lot of the strong winds here. Yeah, look at that. 30, 40, 50 knots. That's definitely that's in tropical storm force. That would be like probably like upper level tropical storm force winds. That would be like nearly 60, almost 70 miles an hour sustained. Remember, higher gusts too. These are just sustained winds. And of course, as you get towards the core, it gets a little more aggressive here. And then of course, we continue to work our way towards the landfall point. And some of those coasts could really be impacted quite strong. Remember, this is one model too, so take that with a grain of salt. Models, they ain't perfect after all. What about Mobile, Alabama? So Mobile is far enough to the west to where I don't think you're going to have that many problems. Now, certainly it could be pretty gusty out there. you definitely could get some pretty strong winds, of course. But you, my friend, I think you're going to be fine. I think, like I said, a lot of the concern right now is for the eastern panhandle and for places out there near the Big Bend. That's where the landfall seems to be. Not to mention the western side of a tropical cyclone is what we consider the clean side. That's where, there's no tornado threat or anything like that. The dirty side is on the right-hand side. That's where tornadoes and stuff could happen. And like I mentioned, that could put us in a tornado threat for a lot of Florida coming up to the point there. If we look at those winds, kind of our low-level winds here, I mean, they're going to be pretty strong overall. You're very welcome. No problem. Like I said, I'm glad to help out. What websites do I use? So a bunch of different ones for different things. This one here is not a website. This is a program I use. But anyways, yeah. So then you can see, it making landfall. There will likely be some. Ooh, wow. There will likely be some tornadic problems with the storm here too. But all right, y'all. We're gonna hop on back over here to the main models. Again, we're gonna take a look back at those. But yeah. So I wanted to mention that with you guys too. So keep that in mind too. It's not just hurricane activity. But there could be some tornadic concerns as well. Hopping over here to the southeast. Like I said, this is the 0 Zulu run. This was from basically earlier this morning. This model showed the storm making landfall there towards the Big Bend area. Central low down into the lower 940s, which would put this thing in like category 4 realm, roughly. So, I mean, you can't obviously go directly off of pressure, but, that would put the storm in major hurricane status easily. And you can also see, like I mentioned, that those winds are not just going to be strong along the western coast of Florida, but also, due to the fact that these things rotate, counterclockwise here, we're going to get a lot of those lower level winds pushing at the coast here too. In which, in turn, that could allow for, areas along eastern Florida, like the eastern side here of Georgia, maybe even the Carolinas potentially could get some strong winds too, in which some of those could get near tropical storm force. Then, of course, we have the new model, the 06 Zulu run. Once again, still really showing some heavy, strong winds out there towards like Florida's northeastern coast too. In portions out there by like South Carolina and Georgia's coast. So, yeah, for sure. Let me zoom in a little bit on this here. I think I can go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, zooming in a bit on that so you can kind of see that those strong winds will likely carry on to there. How about Atlanta? So Atlanta is obviously far up into Georgia. Now, I would say though, that you should monitor this throughout Georgia. If you live in Georgia, if you know anybody who lives in Georgia, give them a heads up too. By the time we get to Georgia, there's still a chance that this thing could still be a strong storm. And there will likely be some really strong winds out there in Georgia still, central, southern side, probably more specifically. And depending on where it goes after that is still what we need to kind of figure out here. But, I would definitely watch it in Florida, Florida too, of course, but mostly Florida and portions of Georgia. I would definitely watch out for it. Now for Atlanta, there certainly will likely be some form of impact with the system here, whether it's rain, whether it's winds, or both. We still need to kind of monitor that, but it could definitely be impactful. Let's see, love from Sydney, Australia. Wow, quite a ways away. Hope you're doing good, my friend. I appreciate that. Let's hop back over into HWRF here. And you can see here that the HWRF model here suggests that pressure still being in the 930s, 940s, even in southern Georgia. That is still really, really low pressure. And some of those winds would still be absolutely strong inland. Still likely hurricane force at that point in time. So, we'll have to see how that holds up to reality there. And then once again, you can see Georgia's coast there getting easily tropical storm force winds and stuff like that. And by far the worst of it being there for the Big Bend. Those strongest winds, those hurricane force winds, really kind of slamming up against the coast there. Let's see. Hi, watching from Lincoln, Nebraska. Hello, hope you're doing good, my friend. Let's see. Enjoy the content. Love to you, King. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Is Panama City safe? So Panama City. Here, let's hop down over here real quickly. So whenever it comes to Panama City, the landfall is going to likely be somewhere to your east, but there will probably be still some decent impacts for the Panama City area. Like I mentioned, though, the good news about this is that the dirty side of the storm is going to be on the right-hand side. Like I said, this is where we have, tornado potential and stuff like that, while the left-hand side, not so much. Now, Panama City will likely experience some heavy, bands and stuff like that overall. But honestly, a lot of the heaviest is going to be to your right, basically, out there more towards like Apalachicola and. But yeah, definitely watch out if you're in Panama City. I would certainly keep an eye out there for it, because there is still some potential. That the storm could maybe shift a little bit to the west or a little bit to the east. It still cannot. That track is still not 100% final. Although we do have good agreement on it right now, it certainly is still a subject to change potentially. Let's see. Absolutely boiling here, and it's 10 p.m. I hear you. Yeah, Australia does get pretty hot, doesn't it? You're welcome, Carl. No problem. Glad to help out. Let's go and hop on back over here. So like I mentioned, guys, landfall is going to be right around the 26th. That's kind of when the heaviest impacts are going to be felt. It's going to be on the 26th here. Now, regarding what time the storm is going to, the core, the eye of the storm goes over land, that is still unknown, but I would range somewhere between the morning and the evening of the 26th. It's still very, like I said, it's still very much unknown what the exact timing of this. But what we can tell you is that the impacts for the storm will be felt on the probably starting the late 25th for like southern Florida, and then throughout the 26th for the majority of Florida and everywhere else. Miami should get a gale warning from this. Miami might even be in the tropical storm watch area. If, like I said, they're likely going to start pushing these warnings here within the next little bit, these watches and stuff. In which the way models are suggesting, Miami could see some tropical storm force conditions. So it's possible. Driving for Orlando to Atlanta Wednesday morning. Thoughts? Wednesday morning. So the main impact's going to be Thursday. If you can get out Wednesday morning, I think you'll be good enough. I think you'll be fine. Yeah, because at the point of Wednesday, which would be the 25th, the storm is still going to be far away from Orlando. Even then, like I said, the impacts for Orlando is not going to be as strong as they're going to be for maybe like Tampa Bay or the Big Bend region. But yeah, if you leave the morning of Wednesday, the 25th, you should be good. Let's see. I experienced tropical storm and it was scary to destroy my area. I can only imagine something like this. Yeah, they can certainly be pretty nasty systems, and that's what's got me kind of worried. Is not only the sheer strength of the storm here, but also the size. I mean, look at this, guys. I'm gonna show you all something. Look at the size of the storm here. According to this is the HWRF 06 Zulu run. I mean, this thing is literally about the size of Florida. I mean, it's a big storm. So the impacts are not going to be for just a small area. They're going to be over a pretty large margin. So this storm's going to be definitely pretty impactful for a lot of people. Rather than it's not like an Andrew, where Andrew was small and compact, but yet strong. This one's both strong and large. So that's why this storm's got me a little concerned. And then of course we start pulling in some dry air right at landfall, and then the storm just kind of rapidly falls apart. But absolutely. And so right now, like I mentioned, guys, now is the time to prepare. If you live across the panhandle of Florida and throughout even portions of the western coast, I want you guys to start preparing for this. Just know that the track can still change a little bit too. So really a lot of Florida's just west coast should just please watch this and start preparing for it. Get some water, get some non-perishable foods. I mean, even if you don't need it, you're still going to eat it anyways. So, it's just get it. That way you guys can be ready. And storms like this, it's a little bit of a complicated setup because there is a frontal system that's going to be kind of nudging the storm around a little bit, which that makes me believe that the storm could want to steer a lot. I think this could be one of those storms that kind of has a mind of its own and kind of would love to kind of move around on its own. That's kind of where I'm standing with this, and that's kind of what I believe could happen. Is because it's going to be kind of being pushed by a decaying front overall. And, of course, as we pull our way inland, then it's going to kind of get sucked up and shot possibly towards the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. But at that point, it would be nothing than just rain. Am I going to be doing any content on Australian cyclone season? Not really. We mostly focus on stuff in the Atlantic for the most part. Sometimes the Eastern Pacific if it's warranted, but yeah, we mostly focused on tropical Atlantic. Let's see. I'm 20 minutes away from the beach in Miami, not in the flood zone. That's good. So yeah, you're inland, so that should be fine. Most of the problem with hurricanes is the surges, and the big flooding threat. That's mostly for the coastlines. Now, if you're inland, you're in a much better situation. Now, there will still be some strong winds inland, of course, and stuff like that, and of course that potential tornado threat we were talking about. You can see here on the lower level winds, if you guys see this chart here, so this is the ground level. This is going up in altitude, so you can see how the winds are going northwest, and they kind of gradually turn to the north. That is a veering wind shear pattern, and that could allow for some spin, some tornadoes to develop, plus a little bit of a pocket of instability in that lower atmosphere. Could allow for some tornadoes in that environment. Plus the photograph, you can't really see that, but it really curves, it hooks, which really represents that change in wind direction and wind speed. But yeah, and there's likely going to be a tornado threat leading into Wednesday and into Thursday as well. Northeast Florida here, Jackson, worried most about flooding on this one, but we're expecting this one to move quickly, right? It's a fairly fast-moving storm. Yeah, it's not like a slow storm like Harvey. Nothing like that. Now, Harvey was obviously for Texas, but Harvey was a staller. Debbie was kind of a staller, too, but this one's just going to keep moving. This one should just keep moving, which is good, of course. You want the storms not to sit over an area, because if they sit over a region for a long period of time, then they accumulate that rainfall, and it just gets totally nasty. Now, with that being said, though, there will definitely likely be a lot of rain with the storm, though, too. Right now, the rain accumulation, look at GFS. Wow, dude. Right now, the rain accumulation is heavily unknown, so just know that this is likely going to change, but the GFS, as of right now, suggests the possibility, here you can see the color table on the right-hand side, this is in inches, by the way, suggests that some of the areas near landfall could experience maybe 6+ inches, half a foot of rain. For those low-lying areas could be a problem. Not to mention along the coast, we're going to have some really big swelling, really big, concerns for surges and stuff too. We're likely going to have surges over 10 foot, with the storm here. It seems quite likely. I'm from Orlando. How to be in Orlando? Since Orlando's inland, Orlando's kind of inland here. I think Orlando will be mostly fine. There could certainly be some strong winds for Orlando. Maybe tropical storm conditions, but honestly, I think a lot of the worst of it's going to be to the west. Orlando will definitely feel it for sure, but it's not going to be probably anything super wild for you. But still keep that in mind. There's still not fully, the storm is still not fully known right now, but we'll keep an eye on it. Is this a similar track to Debbie? It is. It is kind of a similar track to Debbie. Although Debbie went up towards the Big Bend and actually went out a little bit and then kind of pulled back in. This storm is kind of just expected to just kind of do something like that. Although that's still not certain, but the models kind of have it doing something like that at some point. Let's see. I'm in Swainsboro, Georgia. Yeah, Georgia needs to monitor this too. There could be a good amount of rainfall out there for one, but also the storm could still be pretty good intact for Georgia. As you can see, they're still having the low in the 960 range. It would still likely be a hurricane as we track our way into Georgia. So there would certainly be, some hurricane conditions, potentially even working their way up into Georgia fairly well. So that majority of models do support that. Majority of the models do suggest that there. Let's see here. Why is Arkansas on Arkansas? Oh, Arkansas is over here. Arkansas is not going to be really affected by the storm here. There will be another low over Arkansas right at the time of this landfall, which is going to kind of do the Fujiwara effect. I think that's how you say that. Which is going to basically, these two lows are going to dance around each other. That's what's going to kind of dig this tropical system more inland overall. So that's what's going to probably happen with that. We got 2.5 foot of storm surge. This will have more surge than Debbie did. Absolutely, yeah. Debbie was a Cat 1. I think we had 5 foot of storm surge total, if I'm not mistaken. No, this one's likely going to be pretty hefty with storm surge. I would not be surprised if we go over 10 foot of surges with this. I wouldn't be surprised at all. The point of landfall here, a lot of the models suggest this thing being in the realm of possibly Category 4, point landfall there. Maybe Cat 3 plus is kind of what we're looking at right now. But there certainly is a handful of models that really does suggest this thing, getting into the realm there of some upper level stuff. And that's what I'm, really kind of concerned about, honestly. Hopefully not in Southwest Florida. Southwest Florida will be mostly good. The areas up by the dry Tortugas and the Keys, as well as towards the marshlands of Southwest Florida. You'll definitely feel the storm, but it will remain off coast for you guys. However, for my folks up there towards near the Tampa Bay, near Sarasota area and north, it's probably where we're gonna have some pretty interesting coastal impacts. It was 6 to 10 foot with Debbie. Okay, gotcha. Let's see here. But this storm is, this is going to be probably a pretty big one, unfortunately. And that's, like I said, that's what I'm kind of worried about. Is not only the strength of this guy, but also the size of the storm here as well too. It's going to be a pretty big storm here. Once again, we look at the infrared here. You can see the storm itself is nearly, if not the size of Florida. I mean, it's a big storm. It is a really big storm, and those effects are going to be felt pretty broad. And of course, like I mentioned, there certainly could be some coastal impacts, not just on the western side, but also on the eastern side too. Could have some heavy coastal impacts, along eastern Florida, towards the Georgia coast, South Carolina. There could maybe be some impacts with that as well. Yeah, but a lot of Florida though is gonna feel this one. A lot of Florida is gonna feel some strong winds and stuff like that out of this guy. Got friends who live in Panama City. Hope doesn't go towards them. Yeah, Panama City should monitor this too. You're likely going to be, or your friends are likely going to be to the west of the storm. The core. So there's Panama City right here. Here's the Big Bend. This is the HWRF model, suggesting that the eye is going to be to the east of them. So Panama City's right here. So the worst of it is going to be felt just east of you, but there will certainly still be some impacts. I mean, it'll certainly still be pretty windy and stuff like that for them. But we'll watch it. There are still chances that the storm could shift a little bit west or a little bit east. We'll have to see. That's still not guaranteed overall. Regarding the point of where it ends up. What about Gainesville? Gainesville, Florida. So Gainesville, Florida here definitely is a region I want to watch very closely. Given the fact that there could be some tornadic potential for a lot of Florida, first of all. So tornadic concerns, strong winds, and not a crazy amount of rain, but still could definitely be very rainy across the region. And the thing about heavy rain is that the heavy rain falls, it loosens up the ground, and then those strong winds can push over trees and power lines and stuff like that, which could bring down the power and all that concern. So, but yeah, no, I definitely want you to watch out for it in Gainesville. Flooding is going to be a major problem with tracks. So out there by the landfall point, once again, this is early talk, but models are suggesting at least a half a foot of rain. So, yeah, there will definitely be a pretty good amount of rain for some people out of the storm. Absolutely. Best live stream for weather I've seen. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, I try to do the best and try to give you all as much information as possible. I mean, it's a storm like this is very concerning, and it's a little concerning for me, and I just want to make sure I get the word out there. Make sure that I help you guys out, because this information is very important. I don't ask this much on the channel, but could you guys consider subscribing, maybe sharing this, just to help kind of spread the word and help the YouTube algorithm kind of pick up on this, that way that potentially we can help save some lives here. That's the ultimate goal here, is to keep y'all up to date and prepared. But I would much appreciate that, guys. Am I going live tonight? Probably, yes. Probably, yeah. We will do some evening updates tonight. For an area I was reading chat, Pensacola, store shelves are empty, no water. In Pensacola? Oh, wow. I got you. Well, that's, like I said, I want you guys to start preparing today. Obviously we still have a couple days before, landfall here. Like I said, we're expecting landfall on the 26th, sometime between the late morning and the evening. We're still kind of working that out. So the 26th is the big day. That's the day of impact. So we have about 3 days to prepare for this. So whenever it comes to it, start getting prepared tonight. Make sure you have everything together. And also, I made this for you guys too. Just some important things you guys want to have. Make sure you have food and water. Even if you have to buy it. Right now, I would recommend you guys preparing for this along just a lot of Florida's west coast, because a single shift last minute could put somebody in danger who's not fully prepared for it. Therefore, I want a lot of you guys to be preparing for this here. And even if it misses you, you'll still use the water and you'll still eat the food at some point. So, it's better to have it while you can get it. So food and water, flashlight, make sure you have extra batteries too for the flashlight. Just make sure you have everything like that together. Important documents, insurance papers, make sure you have all those in your safe spot. Portable phone chargers, make sure they're charged, of course. Put gas in your car, in your generator, as well as having a first aid kit could certainly be very useful if there's any injuries mid-storm. So. Let's see. I grew up in Florida. We always cleaned and filled our bathtub with water to make sure we had some. I used to do that with winter storms up in Virginia when I lived up there. Let's see here. Caitlin says, hit the like. See you tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see. That's what I was saying about Gainesville. Yeah, Gainesville, Florida should definitely watch out for it. There could certainly be some impacts out there. Yeah, towards the Gainesville area. I would definitely watch it. Also out there towards like Ocala, Lake City, Live Oak, Madison areas. I would certainly keep an eye on it. It happened with Debbie. I was underprepared and only had enough time to prepare. So prepare. Absolutely, yeah. So make sure, like I said, even if you're just really right now along the western coast of Florida, just get some water. Get some food and stuff like that, because just know these things can change course. Just know that these things could, easily change their course here, and it's certainly a possibility. Especially with this one, I think could be a problem with it, because we have that frontal system that's kind of stalling out. It could nudge the storm a little more in one direction. So, I kind of a little bit concerned about that part. So that's why I want you guys along the western coast just to prepare for it. Food, water, and your basic items. With that, make sure you have all that together, but also, that way if you need it, you have it. If you don't need it, you'll eventually eat it and drink it anyways. So, it's just best to get it. Yeah, Florida has been through some hurricanes. I'll tell you that. Florida has certainly been through a lot of hurricanes. Let's see here. Oh, Tallahassee. So Tallahassee, yeah, could definitely probably feel some heavy impacts with the storm here. Tallahassee's in some of considered the clean side of the storm. Not likely going to be in the tornado threat or anything like that, but there will probably be some impacts. Regarding the the heavy bands and a good amount of rainfall and some strong winds still. Absolutely. Yeah, tabletop. Don't worry about it now, man. I already mentioned, like I said, North Carolina. I mean, there could be some impacts by it, but the storm will be very much probably degraded by the time, depleted is the word, by the time we get to those regions. So I wouldn't let it worry you up in North Carolina. But, keep an eye on it, of course. But it's not going to be as bad for you as it's going to be for us down here in Florida. I mean, Florida is going to take a lot of the heavy hit. Plus Georgia, like I mentioned, I want Georgia too to be watching this too. You can see Georgia here, that the remains of that storm goes up into Georgia. We'll likely have some impacts. New subscriber here. We're just south of Tallahassee. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. Yeah, so Tallahassee, keep an eye on it. Absolutely. If you've been through Michael, you know what's going to happen. Michael was a pretty bad one. Let's hope it doesn't turn out to be Michael. Some of the models possible in the Tallahassee. Yeah, there's a handful of models that have it going near Tallahassee. Absolutely. Storm could still go west. Yeah, it could shift a little east. It could shift a little west. And that's why I really want you guys to monitor this here. Max wind gusts for Gainesville. Still kind of unknown right now, but we definitely could easily be in the tropical storm realm. So, how about Daytona Beach? Gotcha. Daytona, there certainly could be some impacts here. Let me show you guys this. So, along the Florida East Coast, there very well could be some impacts out there. It's something that I do want to keep an eye out there for. Is not just the western side here of, not just the western side of Florida, but also Florida's East Coast will likely have some impacts as well. We're probably going to have some, maybe some surges, more mild compared to, the landfall point, but there could be some swelling out there. Definitely could be some strong winds and all kinds of stuff like that for the region. So yeah, if you're along the Daytona Beach and Palm Coast, Cape Canaveral area, I would also watch out for this. You're not going to be completely unscathed. I'm between Apalachicola and Cedar Key. Gotcha. Yeah, so those are definitely regions we'll keep an eye out there for too. Like I mentioned, a lot of Florida is going to feel this one. Some areas more than others, of course, but we're gonna have that tornado concern. I want to keep that in y'all's mind too. Is that, like I said, on the eastern side of these systems, there will probably be a tornado concern for a lot of the peninsula here, which could maybe lead up into like eastern Georgia at some point. These tropical systems and just low pressure systems in general like to do that. They really do like to produce some tornadoes because of the aggressive change in wind direction and wind speed with altitude. Good morning, Teresa. Hope you're doing good. Let's see here. See you later. See you in the next stream weather. But yeah, so, we'll definitely watch out for that overall. And let's see here. And once again, if you guys are just tuning in, like I said, timing of the storm is going to be on the 26th. That's the day of the big impact. Michael was a Cat 5. It was bad. Yeah, Michael was a bad one. And this does kind of remind me of Michael a little bit. Let's just hope it doesn't get to that point. But, given the way the models are and stuff like that, it does seem like the models are picking up on some pretty nasty stuff. So, anyways. So, latest GFS, like I mentioned, 06 Zulu, has it making landfall there towards the Big Bend region. CMC model has it making landfall there towards the Big Bend region as well. The majority of the models do at this point in time. Here's HWRF here, showing that pressure getting down to the 20s and 30s, 920s and 30 millibar zone, making landfall along, once again, the Big Bend area. Then, of course, we got the HMON. HMON does suggest basically the same thing. A lot of these models are kind of pinpointed on the Big Bend area. So that's kind of what where we kind of really need to pay attention to. What are the chances wind shear gets wrapped in it? At least for the point of landfall, it's unlikely, but once we dig inland, some dry air and wind shear could get to it, which might help weaken it quicker. But, the way that it goes, the models are still showing it remaining fairly strong, even as we roll into areas like Georgia, potentially. I really do want Georgia to watch this one, too. Because there still is a solid chance that this thing could be still a hurricane by the time we do reach into Georgia. Good information, thank you. I appreciate that. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. Listen, I'm glad to help you guys. That's the goal here, is to keep you all prepared and weather aware. But yeah, just know that, this could be a big one. How about Orlando? So Orlando definitely could feel it. It's not going to be as bad for you guys since you're inland, so there's no coastal problems for Orlando, of course. But there could be some tropical storm conditions for areas out there by Orlando. Do people need to cancel flights? If you're going out on the 26th, I would recommend it, honestly. I don't even know if the airports will be open on the 26th, to be honest with you. Like MCO, Orlando's airport, closed for Debbie, and this is going to be a worse storm than Debbie. So if you have flights on the 26th going out or to Florida, they're probably going to be canceled, more than likely. Yes, start preparing now, guys. Please start preparing now. Like I said, earlier the better. We have about 3 days until landfall here. We have about 3 days. We have 3 days to prepare for this guy. And like I mentioned, I really want a lot of you guys, just really a lot across Florida's. Let's see here, across Florida's west coast, just to monitor this, because like I mentioned, there still is a possibility that it could shift a little east or it could shift a little west. It is possible. Am I prepared? I need to get prepared. I'm in Polk County, Florida, which I'm not on the coast, but I'm just slightly east of Tampa. I'll definitely feel the storm, I'm sure. But it won't be as bad for me. It shouldn't anyways. But I will definitely prepare, and I want you guys to do the same. I want you guys to do your homework. Do your homework. Just prepare. Once again, I made this chart for you guys, kind of showing you what you need. Make sure you have food and water, flashlight, extra batteries. Important documents, make sure you have your insurance papers and stuff like that. Portable phone charger. Put gas in your gas tank and your generators. Make sure that's that. And then make sure you have your first aid kit and everything like that together. So let's see here. Much love. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm in Panama City, coming our way. Yeah, Panama City. Keep an eye on it too. Once again, most areas that we need to watch out for, it's going to be along the Panhandle and the Big Bend, and even out there by Tampa could definitely feel some strong activity with the storm here too. But yeah, Panama City should be on the western side of the storm, which would still be strong with winds and stuff like that. But it would certainly keep it not as crazy as the eastern side per se. Well, I showed other model runs. Yeah, of course. We've looked at them a couple times, but we'll go over them again. So here's GFS once again showing Big Bend landfall. This one shows the evening of the 26th overall, and you can see some of the strong impacts along Florida's northeastern coast here as well. So that is that. Then of course you have CMC doesn't show it as strong. We have a new run coming through. Oh, hold on a minute. No, we don't. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Southeast. There we go. Yeah, CMC shows it in the same area. Not as strong, but still definitely shows those impacts there towards the western, the eastern coast of Florida, as well as the coast out there by Georgia as well. But Panama City, like I said, you're gonna feel it. Probably if the storm goes east of you, you're probably not going to be in a tornado threat. The tornado threat is going to be on the eastern side of the storm. I think a lot of Florida is going to be in the tornado threat overall. So keep that in mind to my Florida people out there. Yeah, we got to watch out for tornado concerns too. Probably starting on the 25th for southern Florida, and then for the 26th going up into more the central portion. 2 generators, plenty of food, water, gasoline. Good. Yeah, make sure you have all that stuff together. What about Sarasota? Sarasota could definitely feel some impacts too. Yeah, we're talking maybe tropical storm conditions out there towards Sarasota. It is still a subject to change. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. All right, we're gonna hop on back, but yeah. Then we have CMC. That was that. So Icon also shows it in the Big Bend. So it really does seem like the models here suggest this thing going towards the Big Bend. That's where the majority of those models go overall. So that is kind of what we need to look out there for. For the Big Bend, expect that's kind of where we're expecting it now, but just know that can still change. That could still move a little east. It could move a little west. Still fully unsure. You're welcome. No problem. Ice will keep things cold. Yeah, remember, you might lose power out. A lot of people are going to probably lose power with this storm here. That's pretty much a given at this point. We're likely going to lose power for a lot of those places. So keep that in mind. Just prepare for that. And that's why we tell you guys to get non-perishable foods. That way that, if there is power outages and stuff like that, you have like canned goods and stuff that doesn't go bad without refrigeration. So food and water, flashlight with extra batteries. Remember, keep that there. Once again, make sure to have your extra batteries. Important documents, once again, insurance papers, Social Security papers, birth certificates, whatever. Phone chargers, of course. Put your gas in the car, generator, first aid kit, stuff like that. Just things I want you guys to do. I made that graphic for you guys, just to kind of give you an idea. And I want you to start preparing today. Earlier the better. Okay, don't wait till last minute. Okay, don't wait till the last minute to do that. Because sometimes if you wait last minute, then there's no more available goods. So the earlier the better. Supposed to fly in Miami on Thursday. Ooh. Okay, Thursday's the big day. See, Thursday's the 26th. That's the day of that, and it's in Miami. I think you'll probably want to reschedule, honestly, because you're going to have to fly around the hurricane. Overall, that your flight might get canceled, actually. I would not be surprised. So try to reschedule if you can, because I would not recommend coming in on Thursday. Yeah, do not fly in on Thursday. That's not a good day. Wednesday, we're going to start feeling the impacts along southern Florida on Wednesday, more than likely. But yeah, don't come in on Thursday. Thursday's the big day. The day that the day of the event here. Let's see here. So that's Icon, and of course we have the HMON here. HMON, also shows like areas near like Tampa Bay, potentially be getting impacted out there. We have a lot of, potentially tropical storm conditions, gusting maybe near hurricane force out in some of those regions there. So keep that in mind, my Tampa Bay folks. Watch out there for it as well. Definitely keep an eye on it. And then, like I mentioned, some of those areas near like Sarasota too could feel some of the those effects as well. Tropical storm potential. I really do think a lot of Florida is going to get under these warnings here. A lot of tropical storm warnings and such will probably be needed for a lot of the peninsula. A lot of just Florida in general. What about the Gulf Coast, Alabama? You guys are far enough to the west, so there's going to be some impact. You're probably going to feel some strong winds and stuff, but regarding like the heaviest forces of it's going to be east of you. So Mobile area, just expected to get a little windy. That's probably about it. Let's see here. It would be canceled or taken to another airport. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't think they're going to accept any flights in Florida on Thursday. Honestly. I have a strong feeling that most of the airports will be closed on Thursday. Because, like I said, I live in Polk County, I live in Lakeland. I had somebody come in to visit during Debbie. And Debbie was a much less of a storm than this is. And, for Debbie, they closed the airports in Orlando, even though the storm was in a similar area as this one. Although this one's a good 3-4 times stronger, potentially. So, you know, that's kind of what we're looking at. 2 cases of water. Yeah, tabletop, just keep an eye on it, man. Like I said, you know, you're up in North Carolina. This is not really a big problem for you right now. If it becomes an issue, I'll let you know, of course. But for now, there's no reason to panic. No reason for panic. Even out there towards Florida, I know it's hard not to get worked up over this, which I trust me, I get it. But yeah, try to keep your cool, y'all. It'll be fine. We'll get through this. I guarantee there'll probably be some mandatory evacuations if this thing continues to show what it's showing right now. Would not be surprised if that was the case. I think they're going to start issuing watches and warnings out here soon, the Hurricane Center said. So we'll probably get those here within probably today, maybe today or tomorrow. We'll get those tropical storm, maybe hurricane watches being issued. Flying into Tampa Thursday morning. We have a flight. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're probably going to have your flight canceled, my friend, Thursday morning, because right at Thursday morning, the storm is going to be... Oh. Yeah, this is Thursday morning here. There probably is going to be like tropical storm conditions out there. Not to mention those upper level winds there, too. Are going to be fairly strong. I mean, we're talking like 80 knots up there, which that would put planes at risk. Traveling into strong winds like that. So I think they're probably going to cancel your flight. Wednesday flights maybe should be fine. Thursday flights probably canceled. And probably Friday too. Just to help clear up everything. What about Amelia Island says Jacksonville? Jacksonville, Florida? I know where Jacksonville's at. So Jacksonville is going to have probably some tropical storm conditions out there. We're going to have some of those strong bands get to the region. PTC at 11 a.m. update. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, we'll keep on doing these live streams for you guys too, and we'll keep y'all posted. By the way, guys, make sure you subscribe, leave a like. It'd be much appreciated. That way you guys can stay up to date with this. We're going to keep y'all updated on this a lot. Alabama's mostly fine with the storm. There could certainly be some strong winds in some places. Eastern Alabama could get some rain out of this thing too. But the western Alabama side, central Alabama is probably going to be mostly good. Yeah, most of that will be fine. I'm probably going to do an update at 11 a.m. as well. So I'm probably going to head off here, guys. We've been live for about an hour and 45 minutes almost. So we're probably going to roll off here for now. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on post notifications. That way you guys can continue to be updated. Be much appreciated. Thank you for our subscribers, guys. Appreciate your support. And like I said, we'll keep you updated. We're going to do another live stream on my YouTube Shorts, which is still the same channel, but we're going to go on YouTube Shorts at 11 a.m. So we'll do an update on the new NHC advisory. We'll see if they put out the advisory or not, but we'll keep an eye on it. We'll certainly watch it closely. And we'll get pressure headaches with these. Oh yeah, you'll definitely notice the pressure. That's the thing about these lows. It's like you're climbing a mountain. You know, the pressure lowers. Instead of you going up to the low pressure comes down to you, basically. But all right, everybody, thanks for joining. Appreciate it, Lois. You're very welcome. You're welcome, Robin. See you at 11, guys. We're gonna go live at 11 a.m. For you guys for the update. So that'll be in about 2 hours or so. Remember, we'll keep you guys updated. It'll be okay. We'll keep you all updated. We'll get you guys ready to go. But alrighty, everybody. Once again, y'all consider sharing this if you guys could. Leave a like, subscribe. Be much appreciated. And alright, guys. See you in the next one. Peace out, guys. See you at 11.